to get on this live and talk a little Detroit basketball. Um, and also, I wanted to talk about the changing landscape of the NBA because I see things are shifting. Like things are really shifting. Um, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about it. I think that there is something that is really interesting many times. They talk about the whole copycat league, and you guys know how I feel about that. It's just lazy work trying to just copy somebody else without the same players or the same situation. You can't replicate it. But it's to say that the reason why I think it's dope that the Detroit Pistons are not trying to replicate what other people are doing and really solidify the talent that they have and really kind of corner their own kind of niche in the league. It's because I think it just gives them an advantage. Um, every team is different, right? Now, of course, to win, you got to be healthy, you got to have some luck and whatnot. But it's to say that when you have a team that understands who it is, and you have a strong identity, culture, depth, of course, and you have a superstar player, you have the ability to really take that team extremely far, especially when you have good coaching to boot. And like I said, luck. And I think that's what the Indiana Pacers showed us is that you don't necessarily need a team stacked full of superstars, right? Like they were a Tyrese Halliburton non-injury in these finals from winning a championship. Luck, health, and at the same time, you look at that team's construction, and it was more so built around continuity, guys who understood their roles, and as I like to say, are superstars in their roles. They're not guys that are going to make All-Star games outside of Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. Most of those guys, I mean, Miles Turner's made it once, I think, or twice, but it's to say most of those guys are role players, journeymen, even guys who are solid, even good players, quality players, but they're not stars and superstars. And I think the Detroit Pistons are building their team similarly. I would say though that they do have a superstar that's probably about as talented as just about any other star. I think the only thing that he really has to work on is his shot creation package. Um, refining it more. And I think that he also needs to limit his turnovers. I think as he figures out how to get into his bag quickly and efficiently, a la SGA or Luka Doncic, right? When they want to get that shot that they need, it's pretty much unstoppable. They can get to their shot at any time against anyone in almost any situation, and they figure it out. It doesn't matter if you change your defense 50 times. They will figure out how to get to that one shot. I think that that's probably the next step for Cade Cunningham. How do I get to that shot? How do I get to whether it's that little 8 to 10 foot um, step back jump shot over the top, whether it's getting in the post, getting a little jump hook. Um, either way, I think he needs to refine that. But that's all to say is this team is being built around some extremely talented players. And what I really like about it, and of course, like shared in my short video, meeting Asar Thompson yesterday was pretty prolific. Like it was pretty astounding that boy is 6'9". He is every bit 6'9". 6'8" I mean, maybe if it's like without shoes and all that, he's probably one of those dudes that are like 6'7 3/4" without shoes type of deal. He ain't no 6'5". He ain't no 6'6". That's for damn sure. He ain't no 6'7". That boy is tall. That boy is tall. And I love those enigma type talents on a team because what it does is it allows you to do things that other teams have a hard time game planning for. They have a hard time figuring out how to adjust around because how you construct your style of play is unique to your brand of basketball. Nobody else is doing that, right? What Oklahoma City does defensively, no one else has the ability to do. They don't have the depth of perimeter players with that level of athleticism, defensive IQ, speed, tenacity, right? And so they present one of those problems that like you really don't know what to do until you're there, and then you're having to figure it out. And I think the Pistons are going to be in a similar space. I think they will have the ability to play a similar brand of perimeter oriented defense, uh, except they're going to be crazy big. They're going to be way bigger. I mean, when the shortest guy in your starting lineup is going to be Jaden Ivey at 6'5", and then you got Cade somewhere around 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", and then you got Asara Thompson at 6'8", 6'9", and then Tobias Harris at 6'9", and then you got Duran at 6'10", 6'11", but a what does he have? A 7'5" wingspan, right? That's a lot of length on the perimeter. That's a lot of positional size. And then coming off the bench with guys like Ron Holland, and now Chaz Lanier, and then Marcus Sasser. And we'll see what they do throughout the rest of the offseason. But I'm excited for the Detroit Pistons. Something that I wanted to also talk about, and y'all can let me know what y'all think in this chat, is how much better the middle class or that middle space of the NBA is getting, especially in the Eastern Conference. And we can get to the Western Conference as well. So I think some teams definitely made some moves to improve. But I wanted to talk about the Eastern Conference a bit. Um, I think there's some teams, and Charlotte is one of them that I wanted to point out because you all know me. I am the type. Look, if I talk shit about a player, if I talk shit about a team, um, I'll also show them love when they're doing some good things, when they're trying to turn a corner. And the Charlotte Hornets were an organization that was just ran amok. They just, man, they was went awry, right? All those sayings, they were just all over the place, man. And the Lamelo Ball era, which it's funny enough, I would say it's a lot like the New Orleans Pelicans. They had a superstar, star level player who couldn't stay healthy, and not just couldn't stay healthy, but lacked some leadership intangibles to really get them to where they wanted to go. They thought they were getting this incredible talent, but I always said, you know, it's going to be a rough road if your most talented player is not a leader, a la Boogie Cousins, right? DeMarcus Cousins. It's going to be really tough if your best player is not someone who has the discipline to really lead men. And when I say lead men, I'm talking about dudes who paying mortgages like theirs and family members. They have children, they have responsibilities, they have routines, they have a career that they're trying to extend beyond this veteran minimum, beyond this, recent contract that they may have gotten that they have one more year on, right? Those guys, man, they don't really respect people who don't respect them, that they're in a real situation, that they're really trying to make the most of a limited window throughout your life to try to find success and to win. And so when you think about what it means for these organizations to try to make a shift, to try to change, to try to get back into the business of winning, to try to become a respectable franchise, I think it takes considerable effort. And for the Charlotte Hornets, one of the major things that they had to do was they had to completely switch identity. And they did so through this draft. Grabbing Con Knipple, Sion James, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and what's his name? Liam McNeely, I believe it is. Uh, these guys, man, man, they are your prototypical Dookies type of guy. And I know one is from UConn and whatnot, but it's to say that they are the type of players who coaches love. They're the type of players who organizations can trust. They're going to be consistent. They're going to be reliable. They're going to do the little things in terms of allowing a team to build momentum, to win games, to win throughout the regular season, to be able to get to the play-in or better, and hopefully you have a star or superstar to take them further. Essentially, they brought in an Indiana Pacers type roster and hope to then plug in some really high level talents. When you look at LaMelo Ball, and you look at Miles Bridges, and you look at Brandon Miller. These are very talented players, but not the most disciplined, not the most consistent or reliable. Uh, and so bringing in that type of a troop, all four guys I would anticipate being an active part of the rotation, right? Trey Man, we'll see. I think he's going to be a part of the rotation as well. And then you have guys like Josh Green and Grant Williams and Yusuf Nurkic, and I think those are good guys, but the thing is, many times those guys, they fall in line with whatever the culture is, right? Those guys aren't. spearheading culture, right? They aren't your culture setters. They aren't the guys who are going to get you to play uh, a certain way. But through this draft, I think there's a clear message of like, no, no, we want to play a certain way. And we're going to establish that as an organization. So mad props to the Charlotte Hornets for trying to get back to winning. Um, it's a little bit different with New Orleans. It's a little bit different. New Orleans, they've made that switch, that change through bringing in high level talent, but not just high level talent, guys who can be individuals who the rest of the team rallies around. And let me know what you think of these teams that I'm talking about in the comment section because this is an interactive chat. Y'all know my channel. Sorry if my energy's a little bit low today, but hey, just got up. Summertime. I've been outside. Your boy has been outside. That's how I met Asar Thompson. Feel me? Um, but it's just to say that uh, when you look at the New Orleans Pelicans, they brought in Jeremiah Fears. I love the moniker, who fears no one, right? And that's 100% the case. He gives me those Tony Parker vibes. He gives me that guy that you're not going to be able to do anything with. You are going to have problems with corralling him. And I've said before, the point guard position is one of those feast or famine positions in the NBA right now. Where either you have a guy who's dope, killing it, he's amazing, or you have a guy who is not. And he's just some random Mike Conley, Tyus Jones, you know, some random point guard that you're just hoping does well enough, right? Davion Mitchell, you know, Ty Jerome types, right? D'Angelo Russell, you know. Uh, so Jeremiah Fears puts you in the other bracket. He puts you in the bracket of the teams who have a point guard who's a problem, guy that you're going to have to deal with. And I think that he creates this downhill motion that allows them to know that they have someone they can rely upon to collapse the defense, much in a way that a Zion Williamson does. And I think that they've missed that tremendously. They hoped that DeJounte Murray was going to be able to provide that, but he's hurt. He's going to be out for most of the season, probably most of all next season as well, with that Achilles. Prayers up for him and his family too, getting better. All to say is, I think that the New Orleans Pelicans also bring in Derek Queen, brought in another dog, brought in another dude. What's good, calm guy? Brought in another dude that they could trust that can rally the troops. And I think that that's no small feat to rally the troops, right? The Detroit Pistons, they got Cade Cunningham, they got Asar Thompson, they got Jaden Ivey, they even got Duran to an extent, they got Ron Holland, they got these guys with personality that people can rally around, that people can gravitate towards, that a team can be galvanized through. Um, and I don't think that the New Orleans Pelicans had that outside of Zion. And to be honest, I don't know if it was so much personality as it was his magnetism of his talent. Guys saw that guy and were like, "Oh, we can get with him. We can get what he's doing out here. Okay, I got to fill in here. Bet." When he would get hurt, they didn't have nobody. Trey Murphy III is a very talented player, but he's not that type of a talent, nor is he that type of a personality. And I think Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears are those types of players. And I think when you have those two on this roster, with the guys like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy III, and now Jordan Poole, and you also have Yves Missi. You begin to see that this team is building out a roster, right? That is going to be not just competitive, not just have really high defensive potential, but they're also going to have those kind of cornerstone offensive pieces that you can build around, that you can really say, hey, these guys can take us there. These guys can get us wins against teams that we may or may not be favored to win. And that's huge. That's huge. And so I respect what Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver are doing there. A lot of people are, scared about the pick for next year, but I call that loser mentality. Scared to lose. Like you have a bunch of lottery picks. Look, if you have a terrible first half of the season, it looks like, Zion is hurt again. Okay, hit that trade button you've been already talking about with Trey Murphy III. I'm sure you can get a top 10 pick for him. Under contract, 24 years old, 6'9" shooter. You might even be able to get a top 6 pick. Or you can get a top 5, 10 likely pick from that type of a trade. And so I don't think that there's non-wiggle room By the trade deadline, New Orleans will know if they gambled right or wrong and they can adjust. All this to say is respect for them for making that shift. But when you look at what these teams are doing, especially teams like Houston, right? Amin Thompson now paired with Kevin Durant and Fred Van Vliet, hanging on to Jabari Smith Jr., which I didn't think they were going to be able to do. And now at Alperen Şengün, re-signing Steven Adams, uh, and hopefully Reed Shepard is healthy. And right, they now have a deep team as well that should be making a run. That's going to be competitive with Oklahoma City, San Antonio, who still has Victor Wembanyama and the number 2 pick in Dylan Harper, with last year's Rookie of the Year. Um, they just have an incredible amount of talent, not to mention De'Aaron Fox, right? So this league is getting deeper. And one of the things that you're seeing is that teams are really focused on how do we create a problem for the rest of the league? How do we have a team, which is really old school basketball? That's how teams used to be structured. How do we maximize our talent? How do we maximize what we got? Not try to have what you got. How do we maximize what we got and force you to have to adjust to us? In the chess match of the playoffs, we're betting that our guys can overcome your guys. Now, I know there's been a lot of conversation with the Detroit Pistons around bringing in some more talent. Individuals, I've said this at exhaustion, so I don't really want to go too far into it about just how good Jaden Ivey is, that he's more than worth hanging on to. He's more than worth uh, really, what was the term I'm looking for? Um, Pinning in that number 2 option, right? Pigeonholing him in that number 2 option behind Cade. I think he is that talented, and I think that people sleep on just how talented he is, and that's to your own demise and shortcoming. And I get it. It's recency bias. You didn't see him in the playoffs. We had a great run the second half of the season, and so it's easy for you to forget about him, especially if you don't watch every game like someone like me, right? Sometimes I watch games twice before I even comment on them. So as to say that I've been watching, and when you look at Asar Thompson and his talent, he- he's just one of those unique talents, like a Wembenyama, like a Amin Thompson, like a Chet Holmgren. These guys are just so unique in what they do. You can't really prepare for what to do against these guys. And I think he's one of those players that will give the Pistons another distinct advantage. Not just Cade, not just Ivy, also Asar Thompson. There really isn't a prototype out there that you can see in the league, right? Like you can look at Cade and be like, oh, SGA, Luka Doncic. Okay, we've seen something like this. Even Devin Booker has a very similar playing style to Cade Cunningham. Not the level of passer, but shot creator, shot maker type of deal. And yet, when you get to Jaden Ivey, the guys who play like him are all headed out the league, right? Like Russell Westbrook is probably the last of his breed. Um, what's going on there? Of Beasley gambling allegations will that affect free agency? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know if there was a high potential for him to come back in the first place. And I think if he did, it was probably going to be on a veteran minimum, mid-level, low mid-level, maybe like 5 to 10 million. But anything more than that would be an overpay for a position that we have some depth with. I do believe that Chaz Zanir is going to be able to contribute from day one. Like I think he can have, if we needed him to, in a pinch. Injuries happen. Knock on wood. Uh, that he could come in and step in and be a Jalen Wells, a Desmond Bain, even if we needed him to. That level of flamethrower shooter, and so there was already going to be very minimal uh, type of a role for Malik Beasley, which is why I said I would just rather bring back Lindy Waters or use all that collection of potential cap room from the Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder kind of triumvirate of rotation guards and go out and get, let's say, PJ Washington, right? Like we still like Bobby Clement, you know, maybe package Simone Fontecchio in there and go get PJ Washington. All right. Maybe try to trade for Jabari Smith Jr. Who knows? Who knows? But it's to say that I would rather take that collection of money and go get a guy who can be big time for us rather than trying to, plug in with positional overlap. I don't think that that's as effective. And then if you look at how these teams that are winning and show depth, they have a lot of guys who fit together, but they kind of do their own thing, right? Aaron Wiggins is very different from Casey Wallace, who's very different from Kenrich Williams, who's very different from Jalen Williams. And I'm just talking about the bench guys, who's very different from Alex Caruso, who's also very different from Usman Dieng. And then you have other guys like Shea Gilgeous Alexander, very different than J Dub, very different from Chet, very different from LeGuins Dort, right? There's a tiny bit of overlap when you're talking about team identity and culture, defense, but in terms of what they do, very different. And that's intentional. You know, Chet's very different than Isaiah Hartenstein. You don't need to get multiple guys who kind of play the same way and do the same thing. That is almost a waste. It doesn't allow you to fully build out your roster to have a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do on the court, which is why you look at a team like the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton, very different player than Andrew Nimhard, very different than Aaron Neesmith, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner. You can go through the bench, TJ McConnell, Ben Shepard, who's still a little bit higher on the depth chart than Benedict Mathurin, you know, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, Isaiah Jackson, right? You can go on and on. These guys are very different, and that's intentional. That is intentional. You don't want guys who are replicating the same skill sets, which is why I don't think Devin Booker really works with these Detroit Pistons because there's so much positional overlap between him and Cade Cunningham. Where they get their shots, how they get their shots, um, a lot of it is the same. And so for me, it's not something that I would uh, really pursue if I'm Trajan Langdon. Like if Malik Beasley wants to come back, you know, on a team friendly deal, you might be able to use it as a trade later, package it with Simone Fontecchio at the trade deadline, and that could work out for you. You know, a nice little $8 million contract paired with Fontecchio. I can get somebody around the 20+ million contract range. Okay, dope. But I would not pursue Malik Beasley. I just wouldn't. Um, Let me see. Any other questions? That's a good question. Some other teams that I like what they're doing in the Eastern Conference. I like what Philly's doing. I think Philly's going to be right back. Look, even if Joel Embiid is not healthy, even if he's on this Kawhi Leonard type play program, where they kind of just save him for the playoffs, even if he's, you know, of course, not playing back to backs, um, not really playing a lot, essentially. I think Janai Broom, I think they go out and get another center. I think they go out and get somebody like a Marvin Bagley the third. I think they might target that type of a player who is serviceable, has some upside, and really can just add some energy to that position. And I think drafting Janai Broom in the second round of the draft, which I want to talk about in a little bit, was also a great move. I think he's a guy who can come in, play right away. He reminds me a lot of Kyle O'Quinn for you New York Knicks fans, who, you know, nice little throwback name if y'all remember him. 6'10", decent wingspan. Actually, he had a really good wingspan. He had like a 7'5" wingspan, 7'4", 7'5" wingspan. I don't think Janai Broom has that. But it's to say that Kyle O'Quinn was tough, physical, he was skilled, and he was able to plug and play immediately for the New York Knicks. I think Janai Broom is going to be similar. He's going to give them depth at that position. They still have Adem Bona, who brings a lot of energy to that position as well. And then they have a lot of fill out guys. Of course, Paul George, Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Quentin Grimes likely is a re-sign. And then they still got guys like Kelly Oubre that they could bring back, Eric Gordon, et cetera, et cetera. All this to say is that it's a team that should be very competitive next season. I think that they'll be back in the running of things. And I think, like I said at the beginning, the middle class of the NBA has expanded. Not the top, not the elites. And if anything, Boston, I think we've seen from them, even though they're getting under that cap, they are going to be competitive. I think a lineup of Derek White, uh, Anthony Simons, especially in the contract year, which I always say in the contract year, players are going to fool you the most. Contract years, players are going to come in and they're going to give you everything. They're going to play through little dings and injuries that they maybe would not have. They're going to prepare that much more throughout their off season. They're going to get stronger. They're going to get fine tuned. They're going to look good, much like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley did for us last year. I think Anthony Simons comes in for the Boston Celtics and is an absolute flamethrower. I think he's going to average over 20 points a game. I think it's going to be the Simons and Brown. Sounds like a law firm. Simons and Brown combo, and they're going to be dangerous. They're gonna put up numbers. Jalen Brown will have an opportunity to lead his own team. He's gonna be not only the number one option, but the undisputed captain and leader of that team. I'm here for it. I would love to see it. And then I think we're gonna see a younger front court from the Boston Celtics. I think they start to play some of the other guys who've been kind of melandering on that bench, waiting for their opportunity, maybe not getting chances until the game was already decided. Uh, what's my man's name? The 7 footer. I've always been curious about him, actually. Uh, grab his name real quick for you. So Xavier Tillman and Nemias Queta. I think that both of these guys are going to be regular parts of the rotation. I like that they still have Torrey Craig. I think he gets re-signed. Um, but I think they bring in some younger bigs, like I keep saying, I really like Marvin Bagley III. I think he's a guy that I think the league is understood as extremely talented. He just needed to get healthy. He's never been consistently healthy. Maybe a guy like James Wiseman, somebody that you take a flyer on, because I think that he's someone also that can be healthy, that can play at a high level. But I like what they're doing. The Orlando Magic, Desmond Bain, is going to give them an offensive wrinkle that I don't think that we've seen before, and that perimeter guard shot creation ability, not just off the move, but also off the bounce. Desmond Bain is really adept to creating his own shot. And with Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner there on his sides, on his wings at the forward position, I think that he offers that three-headed offensive trio that should be pretty high level. I think that he should be pretty high level, and I think it takes some pressure off of Jalen Suggs as well. That you're not going to have to be this shot creator as much as more like really he's going to be an insane Derek White on crack. I think that's what Jalen Suggs is going to be. He's going to knock down threes, probably a lot more threes, probably more efficiently. Um, and he's going to play extremely high level on ball and off ball defense and be extremely disruptive. And I think that that team is ready, is poised to jump into that championship contention window. I truly do. And I think that that's the move that does it. I think they leapfrog Cleveland. Um, and like I said, this is all health barring going into the playoffs. Cleveland is still going to be right there. We're going to see what they do in terms of getting under the cap, getting under that second apron. Darius Garland could be on his way out. Could be Jared Allen. It could be someone else. But I think that all these teams are still going to be good. And so for the Detroit Pistons, and I keep saying this, I think even with the moves that they'll make throughout this offseason, and as Trajan said, they're not going to be extremely active. Most likely, most of their activity is going to be reserved for the trade deadline after they see what they have throughout the first half of the season. But even if the Detroit Pistons improve this roster, let's say they get a PJ Washington, let's say they get even a Jabari Smith Jr., it's going to take a while for them to acclimate to one another because they're already adjusting to now Jaden Ivey and Asar Thompson being in that starting lineup together. Not to mention Ron Holland getting a huge jump in minutes, which is another reason why Malik Beasley doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense because I think Ron Holland gets somewhere close to 19 minutes a game, somewhere around 20 minutes a game. And that means an even smaller role for whatever guard is in that rotation because I think he plays that 2 and 3 position. And like I said, I'm still a fan of Marcus Sasser. I think he's overlooked a little bit, but he'll have a chance to prove himself going into training camp because I don't think he's on the summer league roster at all. When I think about what next season is going to look like, and I want to actually talk about a couple other things. The NBA draft. Um, okay, some of y'all, I'm a little older, right? So I kind of have historical context that the NBA did not always have a draft. They did not always have a draft, and they used to just sign people out of college, and uh, I really appreciated that. I really appreciated that because they were able to bring in people who wanted to be there. And I think that when you can sign someone who wants to be there, it shifts the culture of your team. This Ace Bailey situation is completely absurd to me. Completely absurd. Uh, Drafting him to a team he does not want to go to is just it's a foolish situation from an organizational standpoint, right? Like that's like you trying to hire somebody who never applied, right? Like you're a recruiter and it's like, no, no, you're gonna work for us. But I didn't apply to you. You're gonna work for like it if I'm honest. One second. It's damn near slavery type of energy where it's like, no, you're gonna work for us. No, you working for us. I don't want to. So what? I don't give a damn. You gonna work for us. I wish you would try to leave us. There's gonna be some consequences. I'm like, hot damn. Like that's some real ish. You know what I mean? And it's not a good look. Very white culture, city, town, Danny Ainge, you gonna work for us, boy. It just has look, Juneteenth just passed. That shit is fresh. You know what I mean? Shout out to sinners, right? Racism's still real. But to say it's just like, how do you do that from an organizational standpoint? I think that that's foolish. Um, Jerome, what's good, man? Appreciate the love, man. Don't know how you do this. Some of these fans are ridiculous. They expect the Pistons to make these NBA 2K trades, and I'm done talking to them. Let's see, one second. Yeah, I think, but you have to understand, like we are in an NBA 2K world right now, right? This is where we're at. This is where we're at. And so when you think about what you're seeing, you are seeing a response to fans that I would say are more informed than ever, right? Like more fans today know about things like uh trade deadline, cap space, um, early bird rights. They're fully adept to the mid-level exception and veteran minimum contracts, construction, second apron, first apron, trade deadline, different rules. Different penalties for this. Why organization? They are so well informed. But here's the thing: not everybody also plays basketball. I don't know if y'all notice, folks ain't just playing outside no more like we used to, right? And so you get a lot of commentators, cool. Um, let's see, I said that. Guys critiquing that. I genuinely question: Do you play basketball? Do you play? Do you play pickup? Do you play any of it? Because some of these suggestions, I'm like, well, how does this make basketball sense? It sounds like fan sense. I just want to be excited. It doesn't sound like basketball sense. It doesn't sound like you recognize like your team, how to build a team, how to, it doesn't seem like any of that. And so those are things that I kind of question from a bunch of the commentators out there. Some of these trade ideas, and so quick to just get off of talent, so quick to keep turning over and moving forward. Like it's that symptom of when you have YouTube, right? Oh, shit, you on YouTube, and there's like always something new. It's always something new, always something new, and these algorithms are getting better and better and better. Shit, it's too much sometimes. They know everything you want to see, and it's always this fast, engaging, right? You're always going on to the next thing. It's hard to just enjoy what you got. It's almost like the difference between someone who I don't know if you know somebody like this who gets on Netflix and just starts watching a bunch of previews for shows and movies. It just keeps watching over and over and over and over, and they never actually watch one of the shows or movies. It's kinda like that. That's how some of these guys operate and thinking about how these teams grow, but if you look at the teams that were just in the NBA finals, none of them were constructed like that. Neither of them were constructed like that. The teams that had deep runs had long-standing guys, right? Even the Knicks, right? Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, right? Part of the core. Mitchell Robinson was a monster for them. Deuce McBride, right? These guys came in, they were critical. right? Let me see some of these. Uh, Heartbreak Kid, what's good, man? What's good, man? It's good to see y'all. To be honest, it's okay to disagree. I just don't see how you don't want Laurie, but you're okay with Asar, Holland, and Duran being in a starting lineup. All three of them are terrible offensively. I don't think they are terrible offensively at all. I think that's where we disagree. I don't want Laurie at his price point. I don't want him at his price point. I think he's 28 years old. He's in his prime. He's looking to win right now. That's not where this team is at. And I don't think that's a move that Trajan would make at least before the trade deadline. And he shouldn't. Because what we saw from Jaden Ivey is he's a legitimate, as I call him, a 1B, right? He's not a Robin. He doesn't have that type of energy. He has uh superstar energy. He has the guy who believes he is a genuine superstar. He believes in himself and he plays with a level of magnetism and energy, not just the physical intangibles that are absolutely otherworldly and absurd. We'll see how he comes. He should come back pretty strong, right? Paul George had a similar injury, came back strong. Athleticism, still remained. But it's to say that Jaden Ivey is such an extreme talent. Like I can see by the end of next season, he's looked at as better than Laurie Markkinen. So why would I spend that much money on Laurie Markkinen, and I've got a guy already on the team who might be just as good or better than him by the end of the season, and it's going to cost you $20 million a year less. Remember, Laurie Markkinen makes 46 million next year and ends in 28-29 making 53.5 million. You're essentially bringing him in saying he's your Pascal Siakam. He is your number two on a championship team. That's what you're literally saying if you were to bring him in. That type of move doesn't make sense, especially if you don't know what the rest of this team looks like. And if you're saying that Asar and and Duran and Ron aren't good offensively, and you said terrible, I think we're seeing two different things, Heartbreak Kid. Respect your opinion, but I definitely have to disagree. Like Duran is very skilled as a passer, as a finisher around the rim, screen setter, roller. Remember, he's only 22 years old, so he's still figuring out a lot. He's improving so much defensively, an incredible rebounder, especially on the offensive glass. Great lob threat, dump off guy, and has an under recognized and underutilized post game as well, and ability to attack his man one on one. I think he's already a top 10 center in the NBA. I think by the end of next season, you will see that as well. And don't get me started on Asar Thompson. Extremely talented. He does so many things. I think we get caught up in jump shots, right? Because it's the Stephen Curry era. I always said the YouTube era before this, you always want something new. So you want the next thing, right? But that's not necessarily what helps you to win at a high level. You need continuity and team construction that takes time. But at the same time, I appreciate that ocean of wisdom. But at the same time, you have this dynamic where you also have this generation of the Stephen Curry era. And it's funny because like I go to a park. Oh, I mean, not too many people play at parks anymore, but I'll go into a gym and you see these guys doing these step back threes, these James Harden step back pullbacks. They're doing all these threes, and I'm like, but you guys struggle to make layups. So what are you doing working on threes? What are you doing shooting NBA level threes? You don't even shoot that consistently, bro. Matter of fact, I can't wait to see one of these young bucks hit a three. Right, I'm aging myself, sounding like Unc. uh, you know, Seeing one of these dudes hit a three early, and I know they can't really shoot like that because I know when they make that one shot, they're gonna shoot 5, 6 more. That's gonna be layup line for us the other way. Long rebound, we off, layup, layup, layup. Next thing you know, the game is over, and they done made 1 for 6. Like I think these 3-point volume shooters have disconnected us to if you're not on that level of efficiency, you're not actually that impactful. And being so focused on shooting range has completely disconnected, I think, a lot of people from all the other ways that you score, including passing to create for others or getting downhill, collapsing defenses, kicking the ball out, creating shot opportunities, creating open looks. All these things, Asar, Duran, Ron Holland have extremely high capability for getting to the rim, finishing around the rim. their physical intangibles, their athleticism. I don't need to go on to this. For those who know, you know. If you don't know, keep watching. Next season, I think you're gonna figure it out. Um, I think we can afford all three. I think we can, but we got to take care of Dern and Ivy this off season. And I've said before in past lives, got to get them all under that 25 mil a year signing. Cool, and a lot of these people don't want to keep our guys. They would rather pay 37-year-old KD or got the roster for Giannis. True, that's why I don't really listen to him anymore. I don't even respond to him off of Twitter anymore. I just don't. Eugene Purdy, what's good, my man? What's good? Welcome to the scene. I don't know if I've read your comments too often. You may have been in the channel lives, but I don't know if I've read your comments as much. Um, let me see. What do you think Ace wanted to play for? I think he wanted to go to Brooklyn or New Orleans. Brooklyn or New Orleans. I think if he went to New Orleans, it would have facilitated that trade of Trey Murphy III. That's been lingering around out there. Uh, or he would have been happy to go to Brooklyn. If I'm honest with you, I actually wanted to ask you all this. Do you think he would just go back to college and forego this season and say, hey, we're going to do some NIL work? We got a lot of fanfare. Everybody's paying attention to us. Hey, we can play the villain. We can play the villain. We're still an elite prospect. Duke had a whole lot of money they were going to give to Cedric Coward. I think it was like $4 million, $5 million. Well, Ace Bailey's fanfare and notoriety at this point, shoot, they will pack out that stadium along with Cam Boozer or the Boozer twins. All right. I think he could go someplace like that and get cashed out. He might be able to get like 8 to 10 million and go play for Duke beyond the big stage. Um, his game is tight because he done preparing for the draft, uh, and then come into next year's draft. I mean, he was okay with dropping down to what 5, 6, 7 already this year, so he probably lands somewhere similar next year. All right, probably anywhere from around 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I would go back. That's what I would do. That's what they actually used to do back in the day, before the draft. They used to, if you didn't get signed or looked like you were going to get signed later on, they would just go back and stay in school. I think a team would keep their rights to them, but they would go back. And I would just say, like, hey, I'll keep going back for the next 3 to 4 years and get paid. Like we saw some of these dudes is getting paid, bro. Like, I think we have to be ready for that. Like a kid, like a young man like Ace Bailey, I don't want to call them kids because they're making grown man money, making grown man decisions. Um, Ace Bailey could play 4 years in the NCAA and average about $10 million a year going forward, at least easily. He's that talented. He has that much fanfare at this point. Uh, I would love to see something like that happen because I think I love when I love when the collective pulls against the power of the few, those who control a lot. And in the NBA and professional sports, especially in the United States, it's such a monopoly, and the players always get disadvantaged. You have to remember, like these owners or the ownership groups, they probably make about 3 to 4 times the amount of what they pay in terms of salaries for the entire team each year. What they're actually making off the television deals, right? The revenue sharing for the national television deals, and then the local television deals, and then the merchandise and the commercial advertising within the stadiums, which I learned a long time ago. That's where they pay most of those annual salaries through is the interior uh, commercial sales within the actual stadium. In the actual stadium, I'm not talking about television deals. We're talking about how much they make each year for that advertisement inside the stadium, local television deals, right? What they get paid off of that, they're paying for those salaries, right? So those are things that you have to keep in mind. And so they really have dominated a lot of the narrative construction around the NBA, along with the how things have played out in terms of player empowerment and movement. Even though it seems like they're super empowered, nah, They've been operating at a loss almost every time they go to the bargaining table, and they did best when they had Michelle Roberts, who was a lawyer, like big time lawyer, running the players union. And you see those ownership, they got her out of there. Like, oh hell no, we was making all this money beforehand. Then she comes along, finds out where our money really is, and then you have this huge salary jump. And they're like, oh shit, we got to be honest about how much we're making and really share this. And yet it's still profitable. Why? Because teams are still making three, four the amount. That's why the salary cap is going to keep going up, even if viewership goes down, because of how much money they make. Y'all don't get that. Y'all out here playing checkers. Cool. Y'all out here playing checkers, man. This is a deep chess game that's been going on for a while, right? Exploitation of labor. I can go into all that, right? But that's my academic stuff. Let me get some of these comments, y'all. I see y'all having a rich conversation up in here. Let me see. Looks like the Pistons will have to learn to play without Beasley now. We'll see how that looks. I'm not mad at that. I was already factoring that in. Um, yeah, Laurie eats up everything. Everything. I don't think that contract is worth it at all. Um, right, his contract is bad, but you have to think he only has 3 years left. New CBA, that money isn't that much. Isn't that much until you have to re-sign Ivy, Duran, and then Asar. Asar is a $30 million player. I don't know if y'all realize that. And smash the like button for me, y'all. I appreciate y'all coming into this live and us interacting. I'm gonna make sure I try to get to as many of your comments as possible before I hop off this. Um, 18 people in here, only 6 likes. Come on now, show me some love. Appreciate that for the channel. Uh, but it's to say, Asar Thompson is a $30 million player. So you got to give him 30. You got to give Duran and Ivy 25 each. Let's say I'm rounding up, right? Then the following year, you're going to have to give Ron Holland what? He's probably at least 18 to $20 million player in 2 years, at least. So this roster is going to get very expensive pretty soon. I wouldn't want to invest that much into a player who hasn't shown he can actually get a team on his own into the playoffs. That's something that one second. Uh it, it's something that I take note of all the time. If you get paid number one option money, if you're asked to be the number one option and you can't get your team into the playoffs, I look at you very different. I look at you very different if you can't get your team into the playoffs. Look, that is how you really know who some of these guys are. All right. If you can't get your team consistently to the playoffs, you are a number two at best. And then I look at how you looked in other high leverage situations. Do you even get to the play in? And how do you perform in the play in? Right? That's why I look at LaMelo Ball different because when I don't know if you guys have watched, when he gets to the play in, he struggles. His game does not seem to translate. Right? So these are things that I take a look at and I go, "Oh, okay, this is who this player is. Is he really worth that?" Because as we're seeing, especially under this new second apron and how teams are constructing themselves, it's better to have 3 guys, 2 to 3 guys who are high level starters and spreading out that 50 million a year contract than it is to have just one guy who doesn't make up enough of what 2 or 3 other guys could be doing. Right? You combine Miles Turner's contract with Aaron Neesmith, Andrew Nimhard, right? That collection of guys allows you to do something that maybe just one guy would not allow you to do. Would not. So that's kind of my philosophy around player value and what it looks like to bring guys in or to try to sign guys and how you construct a roster that's going to be sustainable for winning over the long term. Like I'm looking at this championship window, which I keep saying is in 2 years, not next season, not this coming season, but the year after our championship window we will enter into. And I anticipate us being there for the next 5 to 6 years. Who's going to be along for that run? That's what we're figuring out throughout this offseason and in the first half of next season before the trade deadline. After the trade deadline, we will lock into a roster and we will be in that Oklahoma City, Orlando Magic, even Indiana Pacers, where we look for that last piece. Whether that's at power forward or another position, we'll be looking for that last piece. Get to some of these other comments before I hop off here. Do you see the news about Malik Bees about to get prison? Oh, wow. Put his 48 million offer on hold. I didn't even know he had a $48 million offer, but that might be like a 4 year at 12 million. I think that's also just oh, he just tweeted it out. I think that that might be one of those future trade chips. Like I think if you package a $12 million a year contract of a Malik Beasley along with Simone Fontecchio, you can go out and package that at the trade deadline and get that last piece. I think that's probably what they were positioning for. Investigation is crazy. Yeah, yeah. Beasley, if Beasley locked up. Um, let's see. Pistons should replace Beasley with Gary Trent Jr. I keep saying like, why? I actually really believe in their draft pick. I think he can be Case and Wallace level impact. And when I say Case and Wallace level, I mean a rookie who can come in and contribute to winning from day one. I think Chaz Lanier is going to be able to contribute from day one. So I'm not as gun ho on replicating what he does. If anything, Chaz Lanier is actually a better option than I would say Gary Trent Jr. I don't know if he can bring defensively, but then Gary Trent Jr. has never been that great defensively. I think he's solid. I think he's solid. I also think Milwaukee tries to bring him back because you got to put some sort of a team out there. You got to let Giannis know, hey, we're still trying to have a balanced roster out here. We haven't completely hit reset with you here, and we'll see what Milwaukee does too. We'll see what Milwaukee does too. Look at some of these other comments before I hop off this thing. Heartbreak Kid of the Warriors. Oh, it's from Jerome Passmore responding to Heartbreak Kid. Let me see. If the Warriors can have a team where Steph, Clay, Draymond, KD on their team, why can't Cade, Ivy, Duran, and Asar on this team? It might get tricky if Ron Holland goes crazy. Uh, you know, I completely agree. I think I've been along that thread this entire time, Jerome. We on the same team. We on the same page, bro. Uh, you know, I think that they have a unique set of talent that all deserves an opportunity to play together. And I think if they do, if they continue to grow at the trajectory that we anticipate, Cade, Ivy, Asar, Duran, Ron, Big Stu, Sasser, hopefully Clintman, and then we figure out that forward position, allowing Tobias Harris to become a reserve and retire with us. Um, I think that type of a talented team at that age is going to look a lot like OKC. We're going to give a lot of OKC vibes. People are just like, damn, they're going to be here for a while. They're young, they're talented, they have a strong culture, team identity, and like JB Bickerstaff and this organization have been saying since last season, these guys really like each other. These guys really play well together. They really enjoy playing with one another, and I think that that's dope. That's beautiful. I think that that's something that cannot be understated. When you look at Dejounte Murray making statements about the Pelicans organization and Zion Williamson, kind of mercurial, standoffish. You got guys constantly going in and out. You got a turnstile type of a roster. Um, Organizations who have turnstile coaches, and we're just getting stabilized there. It's hard to build a culture and an identity when you're always dealing with somebody new coming in. Not just somebody new, but somebody new who's going to play a tremendous role, a huge role for you. It's hard to constantly be adjusting. It throws off your continuity, and as a result, it's hard to sustain winning. And so, what you're looking for is that consistency, especially when you have talent. So it's like, why not double down? Why not double down? I don't know why people don't do that more. And I look at organizations who constantly have a lot of turnover, just in business alone. If you go to a company that has a high turnover, it's not run well. It's just not, because you're always having to adjust systems. You're always having to adjust to new social dynamics. You're always having to deal with the continuity, and so it limits your efficiency. And you end up struggling with being able to be consistent, and that impacts your profit margins. That impacts your ability to forecast how your company is going to do all these other things, right? So I'm not a big fan of high turnover environments. Let me see. Who else can we get for 42 million? I'd rather get a stretch for it. True. Like if they were, let's say Beasley, I don't know how bad it's going to be. Who knows? Um, but if they get a contract for him for 12, and you have Simone Fontecchio, um, Let me see. Let me just pull up the actual details of their contracts. So let's say you got Simone Fontecchio. He's getting paid about 8. You got these contracts. You got Dennis Schroeder at 13. You got Tim Hardaway at 16. And this is just this past season. Malik Beasley at 6. Okay, you figure out sign and trade. You might be able to go out and get someone like a PJ Washington. You might be able to go out and get even Jabari, Santi, even. And I think that that's very possible. I'm not mad at that type of a move, but I don't want to see somebody that limits us from doubling down on our core, keeping the culture guys, keeping the leadership, keeping the guys who we are built around. Because of Jaden Ivey, extremely valuable around the league. Not just because of his talent and athleticism and positional size, but also because of his magnetism. He puts butts in the stands. He sells tickets. He raises TV ratings. He's a talent that other guys believe in. That they go, man, this guy can get us there. This guy can get to shots that we all can't get to. And players notice that. And when they have that guy on their team, they play better. They play more confidently. All right. Just imagine if you had Jay Ivey in this playoff run. All right. But I do think that we can package something and get someone to fill in. I think that we push more towards the trade deadline. That's all to say. Yo, Eugene, what's good, man? Gratitude for the content perspective you share. Keep cooking. I hear you on Ace. Him staying in college could be very beneficial for him. Yo, I totally agree. Yeah, appreciate you, man. That would be kind of dope to see. But I would love if he went back to school, was like, you know what? I'm not going to Utah. Forget y'all. And then he goes and he slides on over to sorry, just pulling up some notes. Want to make sure I get to all the topics here. And he says, I'm gonna roll with this NIL deal. I'm gonna roll with this NIL deal. Oh, the last thing I want to cap off with. Well, two things. One of them is a quick thing, one of them is kind of a bigger notice thing. And I want you to quote me on this. Hold me to this. I think Masai Ujiri is going to be the next team president for the Los Angeles Lakers. Remember, when he was in Toronto building that team, the New York Knicks wanted him. A lot of high profile organizations wanted him. He does amazing things putting together teams. Now, injuries you can't control. Anyone faulting him because the roster is banged up, hurt, that ain't what it is. The ability to bring in talent that when you look at it on paper, you go, this should win. Like data analysis, statistically, you know, when you see these guys lined up, they should win at a high level. They should be in contention. They should be a playoff team. They should be. And when you're able to do that for an organization like the Toronto Raptors, year after year after year, that is considerable. Not to mention that, but also making moves to, hey, if we need a downshift, boom, I could do that too. We need to find talent in the draft. I could do that too. We need to go out and get that big time player. I can do that too. We need to construct a quality roster around a coach and playing style and to have a strong identity. I can do that too. He does so many things at such a high level. I am betting he becomes the new team president of the Los Angeles Lakers in about a year or two. Sits out for a year. I think him and Bob Myers will be in that running, but uh, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Masai Ujiri. Especially with the expansion of NBA Africa, expect more and more tremendous talent to be coming from international. There's some really big prospects internationally already. I'll get into that later on. But to say I fully expect that. I also expect a third round for the NBA draft to come sooner than later, along with the expansion of teams, right? Seattle and uh, uh, Las Vegas coming in, and that'll push Memphis and probably New Orleans into the Eastern Conference. Um, but it's to say that I think there's a third round coming. I think that they set themselves up more like the NFL draft. And they already split the days from the first round, second round, 2 different days. But I think that they amp up that second round even more. Get television ratings, right? More money into the league, which is more than ever these days. More than we actually realize. Like people have no idea how much money the NBA is making. Billions. Billions. And I'm talking probably if I had to guess, I'd probably say somewhere around like 20 billion, 30 billion, something like that. At least I would say foundationally, collectively, at least 30 billion. Um, but probably more. Uh, but yeah, but those are things that you find in the books when you have a lawyer. They've since gone back to players being head of the players union, and that's why they're gonna start getting bad contracts again. But all that's to say is those are politics of basketball. But I'm glad I was able to jump on this live with y'all. Let me get some of these last comments before I hop off. Jerome Passmore, Ron Holland can replace Beasley. I think so too. Trading should see about signing Aldama. I wouldn't mind that either. Hold on to the rest of their money for Asar. Ron Tobias money is coming off the books this summer. Yep, I completely understand. Bro, we're on the same page, bro. Same page. Stephen B. I hope Sasser and Chaz get more minutes because of this. I hope so too. I hope Sasser balls out. I think he's an absolute bucket. And I think he could be really good at the point of attack defensively. I think Malik Beasley's defensive liability, I think alone gives me hesitation to re-sign him. And I think that this incident sounds like maybe all the excuse for them to just go a different direction and save some money. Let me see. Jerome Passmore. Wow, I forgot about Chaz. So yeah, that might be why we drafted him, and he's on a rookie deal. Facts. If Beasley's rumor is true, let me see. TL need to make a move. Trajan Langdon needs to make a move. Beasley is our only other consistent offensive player. I'm guessing you're talking about off the bench, but I disagree. I think Marcus Sasser is a tremendous scorer off the bench. And I think we see that more than ever next season. I also think Ron Holland, when he gets to that about 19, 20-minute threshold, which I believe he will next season, I think he is also going to be a consistent scorer. He's going to average somewhere around 10 to 12 points a game next year. Talking about Ron Holland, I truly believe that. Once he gets his minutes up to around 19, 20 minutes a game, he's going to give us 10 to 12 points per game. And see, Indian Ghost Keeper, well, what's going on, man? Just realized you were 3 for 3 on your last 3 draft picks. You know, some of y'all catch it. Some of y'all catch it. Called the Ron Holland one, called the Chaz Lanier one. But you know, some of y'all who follow my channel, y'all in the know with me. You feel me? Um, and Chris Tannerman, what's going on, man? Nikhil Alexander Walker is going to get the exact same contract Beasley was going to get. I wouldn't mind if they bring him in. I like his kind of point forward guard type of skill set. He shoots it well enough, and I think that he's a winner. He plays winning basketball. He's been in good situations. I think he brings some of that culture from Minnesota, um, that defensive tenacity. I think he fits with our guys. I wouldn't be mad if he gets a $12 million deal. Yeah, Swiss Army knife type of a player. Um, I wouldn't be mad at that type of deal. Just don't overpay. 12 is probably the max I'd give him, but I would not go up to like 15, 20 at all, at all. Um, Let me see. And yeah, open up some more minutes for Ron Holland also. And I am excited for the minutes for these guys. I think Ron Holland is going to really surprise a lot of us. I think his jump shot's going to look a lot smoother, especially from the 3 point line. It already looks smooth, but I think he takes more at volume. And he shows us even more of his game and his bag that he maybe didn't get a chance to last year. But I just hope he stays consistent with his rebounding and defense. And I think he will. Bobby Clement is the one that I'm really going to be looking at. Um, he's a player that should be able to play that 3-4 position, but I want to see what he looks like in summer league. That's coming up quickly. If he can play at a high level, doing that type of a play back and forth between the 3 and the 4 position, beating out Simone Fontecchio, I would be extremely high on him at 6'10", shooter, can pass it a little bit. Dwayne Pritchett, man, you jump in, man, just as I'm about to hop off, man. Let me see. Let me get to your comment, man. Let me get to your comment. JB need to complete his coaching staff. Hell yeah. We've been saying this, bro. We have been saying this. JB's a great motivator. He's finding a great X's and O's expert. I think he's pretty good with system adjustments, identity culture, definitely motivation. Um, Great with the players. Really gets buy-in. X's and O's. I think he's solid. I think he was hamstrung a little bit in terms of X's and O's with trying to be consistent. Didn't want to throw out a lot of new stuff to a team that's had a lot of turnover. And also, not a lot of experience. All right, Kate Asar, Ivy, Duran, not necessarily a lot of experience with those guys, or Ron Holland as well. So I don't think you want to get very complex in your X's and O's. So I will give him a B on that, but we'll see more this year. But he definitely needs to fill out that coaching staff. He needs to get some more talent there. Definitely cannot rely on Luke Walton for that at all. Young up and coming coach player, and get the most out of each and every play. I completely agree. Completely agree. I wouldn't mind seeing Jerry Stackhouse here coming back. He's been with the Golden State Warriors. I'd really like to see Stack. I'd really like to see Stack here. I think he could do some things for us. And then get somebody like, maybe we can go see if we can nab, what's his name from Tyron Lue, Sam Cassell. I think he could be a really nice addition. And then maybe get somebody out of the OKC wheelhouse who's just an X's and O's guys, film study guy, um, to make those adjustments. But hey, yo, I try to stay at an hour, man. Y'all be pulling me in every time I try to leave. Some comment keeps pulling me back. But hey, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate this community. Y'all enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Enjoy this sunshine. Take care of yourself. Always take care. Self care is everything because you're meant to be here and you're meant to be happy. So take care of yourself. I'm gonna holler at y'all next time. Smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And I'm gonna get at y'all next time. Peace.